Thank you very much, Alessia. So I hope you all enjoyed already the panel before us, focusing on clean energy. We now focus on specifically, energy, what we do now and what we do going forward. As a brief introduction, my name is Philipp Gerbert. I'm the CEO of TUM Venture Labs, and we had just had a perfect Steilvorlage, as you would say in German. We focus on bringing science and business together in 11 deep tech fields and to create scalable startups. Before, I was for a long time at the Boston Consulting Group and co-founded the Center for Climate Action and led the Climate Path for Germany, the collaboration of the entire German industry, which is actually working on this for more than 7 years on to say how to decarbonize Germany without hurting the economy, and created an excellent report that now the government is finally trying to implement in some way. Now, Alessia already said, very quickly, what distinguished panelists we have. So let me perhaps frame the subject quickly. Energy is obviously totally critical for human development and for our economy. It's been at the core of human civilization, all the time from the antiquity to the first and second industrial revolution, and people had stopped thinking about it a little bit for the last 20 years, and now it's full back on the burner. Now, there's a simple way to frame it. We tend to think of the humans learning to generate and master fire as one of the first achievements enabling human development and civilization. But one way to frame the energy transition is actually we have to wean humanity off fire. We simply have to stop burning stuff for electricity generation, for transport, or for heating, in particular for ground transport and so on, and really focus on other ways to create energy, and that will be one of our topics, how can we do that? Now, I'd first like to turn to Christian Hartel, because obviously we have a slightly challenge, although in the short term, unfortunately, there was Ukraine obviously this year, so suddenly we also have to focus on secure energy and competitive prices, right? And Wacker is a very interesting company because it's one of the most innovative chemical companies and at the core of sustainable innovation. So but at the same time, it's a big user of energy. It's the second largest, if I'm correct, I think, electricity user in Germany, needs obviously gas as a chemical company, but at the same time is a leader of the Western world in producing polysilicon, which is the most important thing for solar panels, for chips, etc., etc. So, Christian, when you became CEO in 2021, you probably didn't think that 2022 would be a year where you need to focus on secure and affordable energy. Perhaps you can give us a little bit of a personal flavor, how it felt to go through 2022 as a CEO of a company, sitting on all sides of the energy equation.
Yeah, thank you, Philip, for the introduction. Well, I mean, my big learning in 2022 was on a general scale, as a CEO, you better expect the unexpected, otherwise you might get a problem, right? So, and you mentioned it, energy plays a vital role for us, and it's for many chemical companies. And why is that? Because what we do is we take molecules, we take them apart, and then we build them together in a different way. And taking them apart takes a lot of energy. I mean, even more energy you need if you take apart the atoms, which Heike is actually doing. So for us, energy sourcing and energy security of supply has always been a very important topic. And in that context, it's also important to know there's a lot of discussion going on. We need to be more energy efficient. We need to save energy. I think for many industrial companies, that's just the homework we did in the last decades. So nobody in politics needs to tell us that we have to save energy. We always did that because energy always was expensive. But in our process, what's fascinating, so we take a lot of energy and we consume much more than the city of Munich to produce polysilicon, which you can all put in this room. So it's actually not that much volume. but you can make 20 gigawatts out of solar cells out of it. It's the real heart of a solar cell, that hyper-pure polysilicon. And in order to achieve it, you need a lot of electricity. But the good thing is, it pays back. So the solar cell is 30 years on the roof, and Philipp will tell us more on that. And we need the energy, and it's paid back within half a year, even that high amount. So, and you know, my real pitch is what we need. And the region or the country that realizes that cheap, abundant electricity is the key answer to all the problems of the world. And with that,
very good. I think in private I will ask you whether you were actually scared at one point this year, but I don't want to put you on the spot here in the public. Now, Philipp, turning to you. You're a serial entrepreneur. You've been in the space forever. You're obviously very famous for being one of the core people building up Sonnen. Then were Tesla for a long time in Europe and made the whole car. And now you joined or founded 1,5 focusing on execution, if I may say so. That's how I see it, but you will understand. So perhaps can you tell us a little bit, what is your motivation to now, start again, focus on 1,5, and what is your approach, to this, and what are your goals?
Yeah, actually, when we founded 1.5 degrees, or 1,5, that's only 19 months ago, so quite recent. The people who are part of that company, who founded the company, are all people who have been focusing on technology to enable CO2 neutral energy. I think 10 years ago, nobody would have thought that it is not only possible to do it, but it's also cheaper. So now I think we've proven the electric car is available, it's cheaper, better TCO. Solar electricity, a couple of years ago, people would laugh at solar. Now they are, I think, pretty impressed about solar. So I think we've proven that. But if you now look at the real progress we make, we see the execution is lagging. So basically, there is no scalable workbench to fulfill. Right now in Germany, we would need 240,000 more people just in skilled labor for roofers and electricians to just get close to the targets of the German government, right? And it's the same picture all across Europe and also the United States and also Australia. So all the developed world has the same need. And we focused on doing the things that people didn't do yet, which is bringing out one solution out of solar, heat pump, electric charging, making it one solution on one app, one backend, and one virtual power plant to ultimately not only deliver the product, but also integrate it in an environment where it has a greater purpose. So we really believe that interconnection of decentralized devices is key to bring down overall cost. And that's what we do. And I think for us, 2022 actually has been a great year.
Very cool. We'll get back later on where you stand today. Now, Heike, you're the CEO of Marvel Fusion, right? It's obviously for part to have you go last, but it's such a logical way to the future. You have your eyes very firmly on the future, right? Now, Fusion is not exactly your garden variety of startups, right? I mean, so perhaps you can tell us a little bit, first of all, what does Marvel Fusion actually do, and what did motivate you to go into such a field as a startup?
So thanks for introducing me, Philipp, and also thanks for the DLD team for having me again at this conference. As a Munich-based tech company, it's always amazing to be at a DLD conference and exchange with so many great minds. So what do we do at Marvel Fusion? At Marvel Fusion, we are developing the ultimate clean energy solution. Fusion energy is a CO2-free, clean, and reliable energy source and could solve the energy crisis that we have and be so important, especially for the German industry. We are pursuing a laser-based approach to fusion, so we are utilizing very short pulse, highly intense laser pulses to make the atoms fuse and release CO2-free clean energy. We have developed a very novel approach to fusion. We have pulled together the greatest laser scientists, physicists, engineers, but also entrepreneurs here in Munich. The company was founded 3 years ago. We have developed this novel approach, have validated it in over 2,000 experiments already, and have the ambition to bring commercial power plants to the grid within the next 10 years.
Okay, and what motivated you to go in there?
A good question.
I won't let you off the hook here.
No, very good. Similar to you, I've also been in consulting before. I've been with McKinsey for over 10 years and have always worked in operations topics. I've worked a lot in the automotive industry, in the machinery industry, high-tech industry, and was super happy at McKinsey. But then met Moritz, our CEO, at a lunch with friends, and he told me about Marble Fusion and that they have just founded this company here in Munich. And even 2.5 years back from now, I already knew from my work with my clients that obviously we need a lot more clean, cheap electricity here in Germany, and that this industrial location is at risk, and with that, all the backbone of our wealth and prosperity. So sitting there at a lunch and somebody telling me, hey, there is this ultimate clean energy solution that could solve this problem, made me move and work on this solution.
Cool. Well, as a physicist, you must also enjoy go back into the really basics of physics. Now, I think it's great to see. We said it already before. How the next generation really addresses this problem and tries to find solution. Not only glue yourself, but say, okay, how do we actually find solutions for the anything? Now, climate action, weaning off fire in electricity, transport, and heating. If you look at the German strategy, a bit simplified to say it's all wind and solar, with batteries and perhaps future hydrogen and so on as backup. Now, Christian, is that, we've seen long periods without sun or wind, so we need a backup, so it becomes expensive. You need two energy systems, right? Now, is it the right direction? Can we get, energy security and compatible prices now if you're both at the user and the supplier, so it's a trick question, I know, but still.
Philip, very, very good question, of course. At the end of the day, I think solar and wind are just the cheapest form of power that we have on that planet. And that's not wishful thinking. These are big projects which you have all over the globe where you get electricity for 1 or 2 cents and somebody is earning money with that, right? He's selling for that price and he earns money with it. So therefore, I think there is absolutely no question that solar and wind is the integral part of the answer, solving the energy problems of the planet and the climate change crisis. The challenge is, at the moment, of course, if there's no wind, if there's no sun at night, well, you still need the electricity. At least we do. Our processes run 24/7. I just cannot switch it off. And therefore, we need a bridging technology until Heike, with her machines, that is all set up. And the bridge we talked about in the past was natural gas. And I still believe, also in the rest of the world, natural gas will remain the bridging technology. There is no alternative. We definitely need to get out of that firing stuff in order to get electricity. But I think we need that bridging technology. And don't forget, the situation we have currently in Europe is a rather unique situation. The Americans don't have that problem. In Asia, they don't have that problem. We have a specific problem in Europe. So therefore, I think the strategy of the government also to diversify energy generation, going a little bit back to coal, might be a right thing to do. But I think until the end of the decade, we cannot get totally rid of natural gas. But again, at the same time, we need to put all the power in building up new resources for renewables. And that, I think, is just going still too slow.
Yeah, for the Germans in the audience, let's see how the Green manage. You probably saw the news about Lützerath this morning. It's a tough thing, You would need nuclear power, but you still don't want to turn it off, etc., etc.
Yes. But I think part of the problem is that the society has not yet realized that electricity or cheap energy is an answer to this, to many problems, also to climate change. And if you are in a mood of just saying, use less energy, use less electricity, I think we're on the wrong track. Cool. Because solving the world's problem needs more energy. Of course, green energy, but it's a transition to there. Therefore, we need to be more vocal also as a society on that.
Now, cool. Now, Philipp, you are focused on execution. and not only in Germany, in Australia, in the US, and say, look, we need feet on the ground. It's all nice talking about solar and wind, but how do we get in the street? Now, I was fascinated by seeing that you had Henry Ford as one of your big idols, because he said he innovated with the conveyor belt, he productized the execution. Now, what is your conveyor belt? You know, how do you get to scale fast, so in order to facilitate this energy production?
Yeah, I think that there are two things that we're working on. One is pretty simple. I mean, if you look at the processes that skilled labor around the globe is working with, they are outdated. So there's lots of potential for automated planning, electric planning, logistic improvement, but also just to automate processes with the customer. So this is pretty simple, but it's a lot of work. It's a bit like Amazon rather, right? You take a package or book, deliver it to your customer. We have to deliver technical products that have to be integrated in real buildings. So we work on this. It's a lot of continuous improvement, a lot of nitty-gritty stuff, CRM systems, ERP systems, automated planning. I think the more relevant part even is the interconnection of the assets. Because if we scale capacity, what will happen is, and like Christian touched on it, you'll have too much electricity in times where nobody needs it. And this will only get more. So just a week ago, there was even in the midst of the energy crisis, there was more wind electricity than there was needed, and the prices went into negative. So what we need to learn, the system needs to learn everywhere, that the production is followed by consumption. Right now, the production is basically following our consumption. So what we build is also an operating system we called Heartbeat, or we call Heartbeat, and the operating system is trying to match that. So basically, in order to relieve Christian as well, we need to make sure that let's say the lack of base load that is lacking is getting smaller. How do we do that? 1.5 million homes in Europe would be sufficient with a solar system, a heat pump, a wall box, and a storage device to be an equivalent of 22 nuclear power plants when it comes to flexibility, basically being a decentralized storage facility, which would be capable of shifting overcapacities into areas where you have undercapacities. So this is the second large topic we work on, and we think we need to do both at the same time to really have impact, but that's not taking off the table that there's still going to be a need for a baseload. And the base load is not, there will be a need of the base load. We work on reducing the need, but since the need is still huge, there's plenty of room for you guys.
Very cool. I mean, he's so modest, I have to brag a little bit for him. I mean, they are one of the fastest scalable startups, go from Norway to Australia within 19 months in a service business, that is really, in a system service business, this is really quite amazing. So congratulations. Now, Heike, the inevitable action. We heard about the US, right? And the Inflation Reduction Act. They are, if you think that they think solar and wind is not enough, right? They think you need to invest in other technologies, and they are focused on hydrogen and fusion. Huge amounts of money going in there. I think Spark Fusion got 1.8 billion in private investment to build a tokamak and so on. And now that's very nice, but the old joke, you must have heard it thousands of times, fusion is always 30 years away. Let's phrase it differently. Here, Christian just talked about the bridge, How long is the bridge, and do you have to extend it while we build it, or how long is the bridge to fusion?
So I think a new era has started in fusion 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks ago, beginning of December, scientists in the US showed for the first time ever that they generated energy with fusion. So they got out more energy than they put into a controlled fusion process. And that was a major milestone for the fusion industry, because even to the last naysayers, this showed, yes, you can produce energy with fusion. And while this process was still super inefficient because it used laser systems that were 30 years old and so on, it showed that the physics work. So what needs to happen now is that we bring it into reality. For that, we need efficient lasers, we need to have manufacturing techniques for the fuel pellets that we shoot on and so on. But all of that is engineering, is industrialization. And I think what is needed now is really a bold vision. And you already mentioned the US. In the US, they now declared the bold decadal vision of bringing fusion energy to the grid within the next 10 years. Just for this year alone, now the US government committed 1.4 billion into fusion research. All of that only going, 400 million already going into new laser system. So that is a very bold vision. And obviously this policy announcement will also bring along a lot of more private investments. And already in the past, we saw that of the 4.6 billion that were invested into fusion last year, 90% were invested in the US, and of the roughly 30 private fusion companies, also 21 are in the US. So you could say, yes, the US is leading that field. So I think Europe now also needs to step up and make sure that we stay in the game, and that we also push this. I think with the right ambition, with the right vision, we have great talent here in Europe. We have great industrial players, so we are already developing laser systems jointly with Trumpf and with Thales. We are working on power plant designs with Siemens Energy, so we have the right industrial players here, we have the right talent here, but we need the push to also make it happen here in Europe.
Very cool. I am persistent, as you know, so your bridge is 10 years long? If Munich Re is in the room, would they ensure that 10 years claim we have fusion?
So, I mean, as you know, as with each and every timeline is dependent on the available resources. My next step is to build a demonstrator here, a tech demonstrator, because currently we don't have our own laser system. I need to go to laser systems around the world, book some time there to do an experiment, maybe 4 weeks there, maybe 4 weeks there. I need a system where I can do experiments 24/7 every day. That tech demonstrator will cost 350 million, and that's the money that I need to raise now.
What is your time goal? When would we have it?
I want to raise the money this year, so that I can build it, so that I have the tech demonstrator within the next 3 years.
Next 3
and
years,
then
cool.
I'm on my timeline to achieve those power plants. But at the end of the day, and maybe to also give a positive note, I think the LNG terminals just show that what is possible if you have political support. They built LNG terminals in 6 months. In 6 months, in a normal process here in Bavaria, you can't even put 2 bricks on each other, right? So I think if you have the right political support, if you have the vision, and if you have the will to do so, a lot is possible.
So just note it, you know, for the camera, Heike went on record. You find her 350 million, she will build you the demonstrator in 3 years, right? Yeah. Very cool.
Very cool.
And what that deserves an applause. We already heard about hydrogen, so to say. Perhaps I'll skip the storage technologies for a minute and focus more a little bit also on how to innovate, right? I mean, because I think it's very important. We do need new solutions, be it for scaling, being for driving costs down, being for really new technologies, all of that. How do we actually get that? Now, we already heard before, you know, so a few things. Now, let's perhaps start with Philipp. You know, I mean, you are a serial entrepreneur. You started here, you raised money, you know, rather successfully. And you know, what are kind of the, do you have a chance as a startup? I mean, to get enough feet on the ground to compete with the large companies, to get enough capital? Is this a good way to innovate, you know, founding a company and going after it because, you know, the old are so slow? Or what's your vision on that, you know?
You mean precisely
the time
for our
now?
Company? For us?
Yes, for you and for the others, right? I mean, we have lots of, I mean, I have to say, we have lots of aspiring people here. The DLD was very nice. They said, no, invite 50 startups here, you know, to the young Munich startups. So they're all looking at you and say, how do you do it? What should we do? You know, how do we go about it? Is there a chance for startup and sustainability?
go become dentists. No. No, I think there's science and then there's entrepreneurship. And I think entrepreneurship, the key advice is try to focus on a business model that you can control. The more aspects of your business model that are outside of your scope of influence, the higher the risk is that you will never get there. So what we like about the business model we have, and we are planning on doing 600 million in revenue in now as a second full year, being highly profitable.
Did you hear that? 600 million in revenue on the second year from zero.
But it's, I mean,
but that's why I said, it's one of the fastest scaling startups.
Yeah, but there's a real demand, and I mean, we are also very
cool.
lucky in a way. But I think the best advice is try to focus on a business model where you have the most crucial items of success in your own hands, right? If you can work harder on it, if you can get your hands on the resources, this will obviously increase the success rate a lot. So I think that's the best advice I can give.
Very cool. Heike, I already said, how did you raise money with a timescale of 10 years, right? Most venture funds don't even go that far, And can you comment a little bit on what the environment is in Europe, and perhaps also what were some positive surprises, right? And we'll have lots of demands, but what were some positive surprises?
Well, I think, as I mentioned already earlier, obviously, deep tech, like if you make that comparison US to Germany, obviously a lot more money is going into deep tech in the US because of the ecosystem that you have there and so on. However, I do see that ecosystem also getting better here in Europe. So we raised our last round with Early Bird being our lead investor, which is, I think, a good example of a fund that does fund deep tech ideas like ours. Obviously, I would wish that there are a lot more early birds out there that can do these investments. I know that for a lot of funds, still deep tech is difficult, but I see that there is more and more momentum there, that there is more and more investors now also going in there, because obviously that is where you can create impact, and ultimately that is also what investors want to do.
Good, that was so far. Going forward, are you actually pitching to European investors or also all Anglo-Saxon? 350 million is,
I mean, we already have some US investors also invest in our company. Everything that you called Anglo-Saxon investors, all those investors are obviously interesting for us. I think one thing we are seeing also in the discussions with our investors, we get a lot of positive response also for our next investment round. However, they are also waiting for a political system. Is fusion something that is wanted in Germany and Europe? And I think that is where we need a clear signal and a clear vision, because otherwise it will be difficult also for private investors to invest into something where you don't know, is there a strong political will for that or not? So that for me is even more important now, because I know with the right political signals, we will get the private money.
Very cool. Now I have to say, if you're interested in that question, tomorrow morning at 9, there will be a great panel on sciencepreneurship. And we just got great numbers. I'm so proud you're in Munich. How Munich is doing in the German ecosystem. They're great numbers. Perhaps they will be announced tomorrow. Now, Christian, Wacker is a great example of a very innovative enterprise, both in terms of all the solutions you bring out all the time in your portfolio, but also you support a lot, young companies, you support the universities and science out of university. You have a great partnership with our venture lab and so on. So how do you think about innovation in this sector and how to drive this forward as much as possible? I think that would be great to share with the audience.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's Philipp, it's absolutely important. I mean, to stay innovative, and the challenge for established companies like ours is how to get out of the box thinking, because you have all these experts that did the job for the last 10, 20 years. They're the world best guys in producing it the way it was produced the last 10, 20 years, right? And how to get them to a different level. And that's what, where I believe it is all about collaborating. It's collaborating with other customers, established companies, but it's very much about collaborating with new companies, with startups, to get fresh ideas. And we just, behind the scene, we had some discussions we work on the common project together, and you get so much inspiration from because it's often a different mindset. And that's what we do. But I would like to add one thing, which puts into that what Heike said. I think it is so important for Europe that also on a political scale, we have that bold vision. And I think energy and abundant green energy or abundant fossil-free energy, that should be much higher on the agenda in Europe, and they should be much more outspoken. And it's not enough having ambitious targets. It's also about having courageous decisions And yes, you can be wrong with your decision if you're courageous, but I think that's what we need in Europe, and especially to fight also not to fight, but I mean to compete with our friends in the US, because I think they are much bolder and much more courageous, and that's what we need in Europe.
Cool. Bravo, it deserves an applause, in particular because, the citizens have to go with it. Sometimes you think they don't like any kind of energy, right? They don't like nuclear, they don't like coal, they don't like gas, they don't like wind, roads, and so on. Anyways, now, we are, so to say, approaching the end of the session, so you have the opportunity for one last statement, and please make it short, one sentence. What is your favorite move that would leapfrog the energy system beyond now? And I will start with Philip.
It's really hard since our business. I think, to be honest, I think the most important thing from my perspective is to focus on what we can already do. So I would not focus on all the things that we need from politics or from investors. I would basically say, guys, there's so much things we can do already and that are being done, and I think we just need to get up and do them.
Focus on what we can do now.
And just do it, just like Nike.
I would like to add to that, yes, just do it, but let us do it. That means, we need the political freedom, especially on the regulatory side, that we can do it, and then we will do it. Sure.
Okay. Heike, beyond doing?
I think we need to do both, right? We need to do everything we have now, but that won't be enough in 10, 20 years from now to keep Europe competitive. So we need to do everything we can do now, but also invest into the technologies that will get us to the next level. Fusion, I'm obviously biased, so fusion is obviously one of them for me. But I think, like building on what you just said, I think thinking about a world with abundant green energy is so amazing. I think everything we have seen that humanity has always further developed with the more energy that was out there. So I'm looking forward to that future with abundant green energy.
Very cool. What an inspiring panel. Let's give them an extra round of applause. Thank you very much.